I'm just waiting for notification, man. Excellent. Perfect. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast tonight. We have two magnificent guests with us today. They're going to give us some amazing information as well as inspiration, and that is none other than our brother Charles and Sister Margurite. Assalamu alaikum, family.
Walaikum salam, sir.
Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the People's Podcast. And on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience, we thank you for this opportunity. The first question that I have for you, Brother Charles, is when did you first encounter Minister Jabril?
I met Brother Jabril in 1976.
Yes, sir. And what were the circumstances of meeting him in 1976?
I had a dear friend who had met him at Arizona State University. She was in part of the Black Student Union and also part of the Black theater troupe. And she knew my wife at the time, and they have been talking, and she mentioned Brother Bernard Kushmir was his name back then.
Yes, sir.
That she wanted him to meet us. At the time, I was a Bilalian, following the Imam or Dean, and he came over with her, and I had some Bilalian newspapers on my coffee table. And he walked in, he sat down. If you ever met Brother Jabril, he walks fast, he drives fast, and he talks fast. And he sat down and he said, and he looked at those papers and he said, "Brother," I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "All of them is hypocrites." And I took the papers and I threw them in the trash. And he said, "You want to learn about the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, be at the study group." And that's how we met.
Okay, 1976. Yes, sir. All right. And Brother Charles, was that your first introduction to Islam, or were you in the nation prior to 75?
Yeah, well, yes, prior to 75, I actually, when I was 14 years old, I have a twin sister. She was dating a Muslim brother whose father was Brother Jabril's assistant minister in Phoenix. And he asked me to go to the meeting with him. I get a little history on the brother. Him and his family had moved to Phoenix from San Diego, and they actually started lowriders. They had their cars souped up and jacked up. So the way they would get people to come buy the Muhammad Speak newspaper, they would jack their cars up and drop them, and then put a show on for the people, and they would all run to come and see the cars, and they would sell bean pies and the newspaper. And so I like hanging with the brothers. And so, he said, "You ought to come go to the meeting and hear the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad." And I said, my mama ain't going for that. And because we grew up in a holiness Christian church. She was a missionary. And he asked her, and she said yes. I went to the meeting, and after the meeting, they asked, "Do you believe? Do you accept?" I said yes. And back then, when you said yes, you wrote your letter after the meeting. Right then, they didn't let you leave the building until you finished writing your letter. They stayed behind, and they waited till I completed the letter, sent it in. I think a few weeks later, I got a letter from Chicago saying, "Congratulations, you have been accepted. A report to orientation class." And my mom saw that letter, and she tore it up in my face. And she actually gave me a beating, and I took it. I told her, I said, "Okay, when I graduate from high school, then I'm gonna join the nation." And that's exactly what I did. I joined. I was coming in when the nation was going to sleep in 75, but I stayed. There was we were at a meeting. There was a sister that was going back to Boston from Phoenix. And the captain at the time asked me and another brother, Brother Daniel, to give the sister a ride to the airport. And as we were giving her a ride to the airport, she asked us did we know anything about the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we said, no, ma'am, we just came in. We were both 19. And she said, well, brothers, the next time you hear someone teaching or talking about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you listen. And that's what I stuck in my head. So that's when I heard Brother Jabril say that, I heard that sister in my head, and I knew he was the one for me to pay attention to.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. And thank you all for your testimony. We coming to you, Sister Marguerite, and people are showing you love all across the world. Sister Miriam says, Assalamu alaikum, family. Sister Naima, Sister Minister Aisha from Phoenix says greetings. Oh, I think this is Minister Aisha's first time watching. And thank you everybody who is showing love all across the country. All right, Sister Marguerite, when was your first time meeting and working with Minister Jabril?
Well, I came in LA under Brother Harold, who became Brother Khalid. And he had the topographical center.
Yes, ma'am.
I was pursuing a singing career, and I ran into a sister who became my therapist for me, because I hated getting up in front of people. I love to sing, but I just hated the process. And so this Sister Hanan, became my a hypnotherapist to help me ease into it. So I come to find out she was the wife of the brother who was shot in the 1963 raid that the police did on the mosque there.
Yes, ma'am.
And he ended up being a quadriplegic. So that was her husband. And she, the things I was sharing with her, she told me that you need to go here. You need to go to this, because something in my visions and dreams and problems I was having, she felt that would help. And when I went there, it was called the Topographical Center on Crenshaw and what was then Santa Barbara Avenue, which is now MLK Boulevard. But I was just in awe because they had it displayed. They had all kind of literature. They had the whole old Muhammad Speaks, and I'm a reader. So when I saw all this information, I was just blown away that I didn't have access to. I had never had access to, but I knew that this was right. So anyway, I'm gonna fast forward a little. I've been there a year in LA, and I was still thirsty and hungry. I was under Brother Khalid, and Brother Khalid was a wonderful showman, but he wasn't, he wasn't giving me what I needed. I needed to go deeper. And I knew, straight up, he wasn't taking me there. We were having clashes, and his idea of what women were and did, he and I didn't, we were like oil and water. So we got to a point where we had to go from pillar to post to have meetings. And brother, I think his name is Cecil Franklin, he was over the AME in Los Angeles, was allowing us to come in and use his base, the church basement was big. So as I'm coming in the room, I hear this voice, this humongous voice talking about the teachings. And in my mind, this man had to be 6'10", and 400 pounds, because he was not playing around. He was not missing words. And so when I came to sit down and look down the aisle and saw Brother Jabril, I was, I was shocked. I'm like, wow, look at the power coming out of this man. And he's barely, 5'8". And so from that point, I was just thrilled. I was just thrilled with him at the, the seeming dichotomy of that, because it was so powerful. And what he was saying was so profound. So I made up in my mind that I had to go where this brother was, because whatever he was doing, I wanted it, and he, I come to find out, he had a group, he was teaching, you know, and he was perpetually teaching and training and this. I'm like, I gotta go there. So opportunity arose where I left LA. I left everything behind me and I just went out on faith. And I went with this family and I became homeless for a while, you know, staying with different people. But my focus wasn't on whether I would be homeless or not. My focus was on what Brother Jabril was saying and the power from which he was saying it. And so Allah blessed me to really a few months after I got there, I hooked up with Brother Charles on a mistake. But anyway, it's a wonderful mistake. That's a whole nother story, brother.
Yes, ma'am. We're gonna come back to that. We're gonna come back to that.
We just celebrated, 40 years of marriage. And so we have together 7 children, and we just had grandsons, 27 and 28. So that, we were married, and then I had no skill. So his suggestion, because he was always in computers and working with mainframe, his suggestion, because he knew the market, the job market, he told me, you go into this field, which was word processing. It's a small field. There's nobody in it. Computers are going to really take over and you'll be ahead of the game. So I went to business college and did that. And when I came out, I didn't realize I was going to be working with Brother Jabril, but I ended up working, helping, typing out his study guides. And so, he was ending a series of study guides and he started another, and it went on, it became bigger than the other 2 put together. Right. But he, and working with him I could not have paid any college professor on this planet to give me the education that I learned working with Brother Jabril. It was definitely an education, definitely.
Beautiful. All praise to Allah. We coming right back to you, Brother Charles. People are showing you love, showing you both love all across the country. Sister Kalila, formerly Sister Dolores, says ASA family from the 80s. She knew you. Y'all knew her, Sister Dolores. Sister Sister Miss Aisha says Reverend Frank Reed. Yeah. And Sister Sherry Pearl says that's make family ma'am. And congratulations on your union. And Sister Name says all praises to Allah. Wonderful. All right. So for you, Brother Charles, you meet in 1976 when the Most High Missiles Farrakhan starts doing the rebuilding of the nation. How quick did you join in that process?
Well, as soon as I met Brother Jabril, he told us where to go for the study session. It was immediate, brother. It was the next Friday. We met in the homes. There was no mosque. There was no buildings. So when Brother Jabril started teaching, we would meet at Arizona State University in conference rooms, and he would do all-day seminars on teaching. Back then, there was no internet, so he had a cassette tape. He wouldn't talk unless there was a cassette running to record everything he said. And we would bring food and water, our children, and we'd be there from like 9 to 6 or 7 in the evening. And of course, people got tired. If they got tired, they left and came back, but we would stay and listen. And then as the word got around, and we started, one thing with Brother Jabril, it is infectious, his spirit of making you want to learn as much as you can. And growing up, I was a lazy student. I didn't care about study. School didn't interest me. I was just there for sports. And with Brother Jabril, I immediately came to realize that if I'm gonna learn about Master Farad Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the only way I'm gonna see them is that I have to study. And he showed us the picture of Master Farad Muhammad with the Quran. He said, what is he doing? We said, he's reading, he's studying. He said, that's the sign of what you're gonna have to continuously do if you wanna reach the hereafter and help save our people.
Go ahead. Yes, sir. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes, sir, Richard. And Brother Charles, how did you know the wave of technology back then where you were messing with Marguerite and you were able to tell her about computers and stuff? How were you ahead of it? How did you know what was coming?
I was working in mainframes, and back then working in IT, information security, was like very low paying. It was no, you know, it wasn't considered a man's job. I actually got teased by brothers saying, you know, you need to go get you a job in construction or something, or be a painter or something. But who knew the internet was coming? And so when the internet hit, it was on, because I had been in computers since 1975, and I got a chance to be in on the ground floor. So I actually was the one that, Sister Marguerite, she said she was a typist, you know, because before computers, you had to have a typewriter, adding machine. You had to have certain, you know, in order to write letters or write documents. And she could actually type about 150 words a minute without looking at you. She'd be looking at you and typing. She had them keys humming. But so I introduced them to a Xerox computer, and it was one of the first computers that we had, and Brother Jabril purchased it, and that's how we got started. But the way I knew that I kept listening to Brother Jabril had always told us that the messenger told him that study the white man and you will be successful.
Yes, sir.
So I kept studying the technology of what they're doing, and I knew that this was going to grow, but I didn't know that the internet was coming, like I said. So when the internet came, I was already, you know, got people working around me with degrees and stuff. But one thing that speaks louder than a degree is experience. And so my experience got me into places that I normally wouldn't have had the opportunity to get into.
Powerful. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Beautiful. We're enjoying this, and thank you all. All right. And Sister Marguerite, in the early days, how long did it take for you to see that the Nation of Islam was the right place for you to be, and that this was going to be somewhere where you would be for, you know, the extent of your life?
Well, brother, I mean, it's like immediately. I remember when the minister talked about when you meet a man and you fall in head over heels in love with that man. And that's what happened to me. You know, I heard the teachings. I knew what I was hearing out in the world wasn't right. I was dissatisfied. You know, I wasn't happy with it. You know, I'm looking at my people in the streets. We're at the very beginning of the crack epidemic in LA at the time. Yeah. So it like saved me from that. When, you know, there's so many things happen that, you know, pull me up out of that. A lot of my friends went down that road. I mean, that crack devastated LA. If you knew LA back in the 70s and 80s, LA was the place to be.
Right.
You didn't have to go out of your neighborhood. You wouldn't even see white people, you know, until you went to work. But you could stay in your whole neighborhood, and crack decimated all that. But I remember, and I cannot remember what this brother looked like, but I met a brother not long before that year when I was, you know, getting ready to come into the nation. And I didn't know it. But this brother worked, he was some type of scientist, but he worked at one of the colleges, one of the universities. And I'm tempted to say he worked at a UCLA university, because that's where we find out a lot of this stuff came out of. These detrimental chemicals and drugs for our people. But he said that they had chemicals that would affect people by their race. And I don't know why he told me that, but I remember this guy telling me that. And I don't know why he would, except he may have been an angel, or, you know, and just dropped something on my head and went about his business. But as crack came and as these drugs came, you know, voice, that brother keeps coming back to my head that he told me this. So when people say, well, we have the proof now that what he said to me back then is true. 45 years later, it is definitely true. So and in all the time people ask you, have you ever not wanted to be? I have never had a moment in my life since I heard the teaching that I wished I had done something different. There ain't nothing different, and certainly ain't nothing better to do than be in this ark. I want to be on this side, not out there.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Excellent. And people are showing you love all around the world, family. And thank everyone who's watching. Continue to like, share, subscribe to the People's Podcast. Brother Charles, for you, what was it like leaving the Bilalian community and coming to the nation? What was that transition like?
Well, one in the Bilalian community was a lot of the older believers. The captain we had, Brother Clifford, was a martial arts master. He was a black belt. He was from LA. He actually took us over to Los Angeles to a Saviours Day. And one of the things that really impacted me at that particular Saviours Day, Jim Jones was there on the dais with him. And that struck me. I was like, white folks up in here, and that right there started to turn me. And then when I met Brother Jabril, I was ready. I just didn't feel comfortable at that set. But what I was going to say about the believers prior to 75, they were very kind. They was very knowledgeable. They knew the lessons, they knew the teachings, they could quote them verbatim. But it was very gentle. What I would say when I mean kind, it was gentle. They just didn't, how can I say, they talked, they was in, you gotta remember that the Imam had told them to put up all of the books, put away all of the messengers' books, and he was coming out with his own books. And had given out the book where you could you can name yourself. And I remember they was telling us to go ahead and pick a name and everybody get a name, and I had given myself Fareed Hassan. And when we met with the minister, after the minister I first met the minister asked us give up those names. And without hesitation, I had named all my children. I was married before. I had named all my children, my wife. We dropped them names like a hot potato because we was obedient to what Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan asked us to do. One thing Brother Jabril taught us is Minister Farrakhan, we didn't know who we were looking at. He let us know right away that the day the minister stood up, that was a gap, between him and us. We was gonna have to do catch up. We was gonna have to study. And we were so afraid of being left behind because he used to always say, this train is picking up speed. He would go, choo, choo, choo. He said, after a while, it's gonna have so much speed, you ain't gonna be able to jump on this train because it'll kill you. And so, but we used to be afraid if we missed a meeting, we would call our friends or brother or sister and say, hey, did you get the one thing in the meetings, we always had pencil and paper, taking notes. And with Brother Jabril study guys, it wasn't just reading them. You had to study prior to coming to the study session. And you had to look at your own words, definitions and stuff like that. And he picked study group leaders to be around the city. He didn't want us all in one building. Phoenix was a pretty big city at that time, and it's even bigger now. We had 8 different study groups, so it made it convenient for everyone to go to their study group. And Brother Jabril would meet with the study group leaders on Sunday morning, and the study group leaders would report who was there, who wasn't there, who spoke, who didn't speak. And Brother Jabril had a rule that if you didn't come to the study session, you couldn't come to FOI and MGT.
Mm.
And if you missed, he would call you, Brother Charles. I heard you wasn't at study group. Yes, sir, brother. I wasn't feeling well or something. He would let you, or if you missed for it, if it wasn't family, work, or sickness, he got busy with you in words, you know, to let you, you know, to encourage you. And one thing I liked about the brother, he developed a personal relationship with each and every one of us. Yeah, he got to know the group, but he also got to know the individual. And he knew how, because we all, and one thing he used to always tell us is that each one of us have a talent and skill that the other one don't have. And to learn to appreciate that which our brothers and sisters have. He said that the study session, that the minister said the study session was an order from God. And that if you don't come to the study session, you saying, I don't need God. You know? So, and if the nation is never gonna fall again, well, the reason it's not gonna fall again, because it's gonna be in the person. They may take the building, they may take the books, but you can't take the teachings out of us. And he wanted us to get to the point where we can defend the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with little effort. So that's why he wanted us to study. So he was constantly drilling us on study. He taught us how to defend that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad escaped the death plot.
Okay.
And that was, when we studied that from 77 to 1981, when the minister did Saviours Day 1981. If you go back and look at Saviours Day 1981, you'll see two brothers sitting, coming together, and we're pointing with him. He getting ready to say this. He getting ready to drop this, because we had been studying it so long, and so I got to say this too, that for Saviours Day 1981, Brother Jabril got on the plane. He said, "We're going to our first Saviours Day." I said, "Yes, sir, brother." He said, "I'll see y'all there." We was like, "What? You see us there? We ain't got no money. We ain't got no way of getting there." It was a test of our faith, how bad we wanted to be there, you know. And it's 4 years we had been preparing for this. So we had a brother named Brother Michael Douglas that was in our group that could really cook bean pies. So he cooked 300 bean pies, and we sold every last, as soon as he could get them out the oven, we were selling bean pies. That was a way to get money. And then we kept searching for somebody with a credit card. We couldn't find no one that had a credit card. We all broke, poor. And finally, I told a friend of mine, I said, "I'm gonna go across the street and ask this sister, this lost found sister, if she would help." He said, "Man, she a Christian, she a diehard Baptist Christian." I said, "Well, all she can say is no." And I was friends, yes. So I went over and told her. She had been watching us. One thing, you know, Brother Jabril always told us, you don't know who's watching you, who's looking at you, you know?
Right, that's right.
And back in the day, and I know it don't look like it now because I'm bald-headed, but back in the day, I had an afro, man, put Michael Jackson to shame.
Yes, sir.
I could take my braid from here and go down to my chest, you know. And she watched me. She said, "Young man, you cut your hair off. You started dressing nice. You started saying, 'Yes, ma'am.' You started being polite." And she said, "I watched the change come over you." So that's what Brother Jabril always taught us about, how opposite attracts and how to fish. He taught us how to fish with people. I remember once I was selling the Muhammad Speaks newspaper, and I said, "Brother Jabril, I can't do this." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because I opened the door and the chitlins smell is hitting me all in my face, and they eat pork chop." He said, "Brother, you just stopped eating hog yesterday. Get back out there and sell that paper and have a kind word and a smile for your people, because some of them ain't never been smiled at or heard a kind word." He taught us what to say when we're selling the paper. And brother, I must say, I got plenty of witnesses that, you know, I became one of the premier final selling that paper, you know, and all praise is due to Allah. And I also became a fisherman of men, because I started going after the people I knew in my neighborhood. But one of the first talks I ever heard the Honorable Minister Farrakhan give, he talked about the 3 hearts. He said the first heart, you hear the teachings and you accept immediately. The second heart, you hear the teachings, and then you with it, and then you go home and somebody's scared out of you, whether it's a wife, mother, father, brother, somebody. The third heart, you hear it, and you just totally say, I ain't with this. You reject it.
Mm.
So that's stuck, you know, and I knew where I fit, because when I heard the teachings, it was with me. I must say, because, you know, I was born in Houston, Texas. As a little boy, my mom, like I said, was a Christian. I was up in, we had trees everywhere. I was in this big oak tree playing, and two men appeared to me. I was 7 years old, and one was in a white garment and one was in a multicolored garment. And I said, who are you? And they said, one said, I'm Peter Paul. And the other one said, I'm John. I jumped down out the tree. I run to tell my mom, because she's hanging up clothes on the clothesline. I said, Mom, there's Peter Paul and John up in the tree. She said, boy, get out of here. And so when I met Brother Jabril and the minister, I told Brother Jabril, I said, that was you two. You were the ones I saw. And the circumstances fixed it where my family got to the point where it was like Allah was gathering a certain group of people, and he called us to that valley called Phoenix, Arizona.
All praises to Allah. Beautiful. Yes, sir. Y'all going deep, and we have some more questions for you, but we have a quick 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast, and we're coming right back to our two magnificent guests. Thank you all, everyone who likes, shares, and subscribes. If you would like to donate, please cash out to the People's Podcast. 1 second.
He does television and film editing. Please reach out to him if you need any of those services. Sister Miriam's ABC I Love Me, children's book and coloring book, and now Spanish book, all three available on Amazon.com. Sister Naima's Stay on Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country, right here in the studios of Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Kenneth's Bow Tie Maker Extraordinaire. He'll ship you bow ties anywhere across the nation. Dr. Henry Carter's King Henry Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Rashad Muhammad's COVID-19 Disinfected Cleaning Services, out of Chicago. Student Minister Sharif Muhammad's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, available on adulsharif.com. And lastly, Brother Joshua Muhammad's book, Cleopatra, as well as No Father, No Excuse, both available on Amazon. If you would like to donate or...
Perfect. 1 second. All right, and we also have one more sponsor of Sister Sherry with Asiatic Minds. If you would like to teach your children virtually, AsiaticMinds.com is a phenomenal school where they teach young kings and queens STEM all across the country. Please enroll your child in AsiaticMinds.com. She's also looking for staff for educators. Please reach out to Sister Sherry Muhammad, Asiatic Minds. Sister Sherry Pearl says, wonderful testimony. And somebody named Drew Muhammad says, love you, Mom and Dad. Boom. All right. Okay. Excellent. Nothing like family. All right. Yes, we coming to Houston, Marguerite, but I wanted to follow back up with Brother Charles. Brother Charles, what advice would you give so that won't be a stumbling block for the younger generations on is the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad physically alive? What was it that you studied, or what was it? How did that resonate with you for you to believe that like you saying this is before 1981, you had already believed that? Yes, sir. So what was it that you? How did you come to that realization based off of your study?
Great question, sir. Brother Jabril told us that our people is buried in the Bible. So you got to know the Bible in order to save them. And if you can prove how Jesus escaped death, how come you can't show and prove how the Honorable Elijah Muhammad escaped death? And so when we started studying that, we got to the point we would start practicing. We were looking for people to practice on. We looked up Jehovah's Witnesses because they was the most learned of the Christians. They weren't as emotional. And we would go and get in spiritual arguments with them, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah, because Jehovah's Witnesses, they got their own. We actually bought their books because of their great resources for studying the scripture.
Mm. Beautiful. Yes, sir. Learning the Bible. All right. And Sister Margaret, 1 second. I want to go follow back up with you about this. What did Brother Jabril say when you told him you were 7 about the vision, Peter and Paul? Like, what did that go like? What did that conversation sound like?
Oh, he told me, he said, brother, write that down. Anytime you told Brother Jabril about a vision or a dream, he wanted you to write that down, and he would share that with the minister. And also, we got to, excuse me for not mentioning that at the same time, Mother Tanetta was with us as well. So we had Minister Farrakhan, Mother Tanetta, and Brother Jabril. And the 3 of them together, and watching them interact with each other, kind of because none of us met the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but we got a glimpse of what it was like to be around believers prior to 1975. And the joy and love that they shared with one another, and the wisdom that came out of their mouths, just kept you glued to what they were saying. One thing is that they could prove what they say, all 3 of them, in very little amount of time. And it would send you, I remember once Brother Jabril said that a brother who was a mathematician called himself making mockery of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and asked him a question. And the messenger answered the question, but he also gave him a question.
Mm.
He said, brother, how many glasses would it take to fill up, would you need if you was going to fill up, or take the water out of the Pacific Ocean? And it drove, Brother Jabril said, it drove that brother crazy.
Mm.
So, that goes to show you don't play with the messenger of Allah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Beautiful, beautiful. Praise be to Allah. All right. And Sister Marguerite, and I'm glad we're in tune, Brother Charles, we locked in, because Mother Tanetta was on the list of questions and talking points. And I'm coming to you, Sister Marguerite. What was it like working with Mother Tanetta?
Well, Mother Tanetta was over our study, over our MGT.
Right.
Mm.
So whenever Mother Tanetta wanted to try something out, she bring it to MGT, and we work it out. And so she developed a 6-week curriculum that extended over the nation for quite a while. Mother Tanetta taught us how to make that bean pie. Oh, and I still make that bean pie.
Mm.
And she taught us to make bread. And out of the bread, she taught us how to make cinnamon rolls.
Mm. Mm.
She taught us how to cook in more ways than one. And she also, the most profound thing that I continue to do today is she brought us the study of the 19.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And this was the first place that I know she had talked about it publicly. And so, this is not long after she had gone to see Dr. Rashad Khalifa, and he was in Tucson, which was close. And so she gave us that. And at the time I was doing part-time college. I was working part-time and going to school. So that was in my mindset, that's something I learned. And I was trying to connect something that I saw in the Quran about the 19 and the periodic table. Because I was taking chemistry at the time, but I finished, but I wasn't able to complete my thought. And then Sister Edith moved from Houston to Phoenix, and Sister Edith had a double major of chemistry and math.
Okay.
I was asking her, I'm going to pay you to tutor me because there's something in the Quran that connects to this periodic table. But unfortunately, she ended having 10 babies, and I had my children, and we never did complete it. But all praises due to Allah, I was able to get back to that study and continue with Mother Tanetta's study. But I would get, when I was able to talk to her and she would come to visit, I would, talk to her about things that I had seen and events and that connected to the 19. So she taught us to look at everything, break it down in numbers. What does it mean? What's the date and all this? And so I've continually done that. And on the study a periodic table, brother, it's so deep. I couldn't even get into it here on this podcast. But the stuff that she told us, and then some, the hidden calendar that's sitting in the Quran that really exposes the history of us, of the nation of Islam today, is what she was leading us to. So, I could never thank Allah enough for putting me in a position to learn from the top 3 present in the universe.
Right.
From the scientists, the angels that we had. You can't touch that. And we could have never gone to a university in this world to get the kind of instruction we got from Brother Jabril. Interesting thing happened with my son, the one that just called in. He's the one just had twin babies 2 days ago. But when he was 6 or 7 years old, I would take him and his little brother over to Brother Jabril's house because he may have needed something. And, I'll do errands and like for him. And he said, Mom, I remember going to Brother Jabril and we had them study sets. And I was like, what study sets are he talking about? And I realized, I said, no, and this was just like, when he passed, I said, those were not study sets. I said, that's just Brother Jabril.
Right.
Because he is teaching every second of the day. So when you go over there, he's teaching. And he would always talk about, well, this is what he found. That's what he found. And if I was to tell Brother Jabril about a book, because both of us, we are avid readers, and I just loved when he would drop them bombs on books, and Amazon is heaven to me, because now I can get them quick, fast, in a hurry. But
yes,
don't
ma'am.
ever tell Brother Jabril you got a book and you don't have a duplicate copy. If you give it to him, it's going down a black hole. You'll never see it again. So whenever I discuss a book, I say, okay, bro, wait. I got to order another one, then you can have this one.
Beautiful. Excellent. And thank you all for, first of all, on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, we want to thank Allah for your sacrifices and the many sacrifices of your family to help establish Islam here in North America. Thank you very much.
Brother, no sacrifice at all. No sacrifice at all.
All praise.
Yes, all praises is due to Allah.
Wonderful. And Sister Margurite, I'm an actor and enjoy theater and doing plays, and I think I'm a triple threat. I think I can act, dance, and sing when I'm not drilling and fighting, things of that nature. Do you still sing, ma'am?
Whenever I can get a karaoke game going.
Okay.
I do a lot of karaoke with my grandchildren.
Wonderful. Praise be to Allah. All right. And for you, Brother Charles, I wanted to ask you, your 1981, I'm going to go look at the Saviours Day so I can see if I can recognize you pointing, on the video. Yes, sir. And I wanted to ask you about your favorite moments with the Most Honorable Minister Farrakhan.
So many. I'll say one of them was Brother Jabril developed the security diamond. He picked brothers who was the minister's height or a little taller, and he would have us walking in a diamond around him, and that way, if anyone was to try to shoot, they would get us before they got him. He also would let us know when the brother Farrakhan was coming to town. So he would pick 8 to 10 of us. He said, brother, start growing a beard. And so those brothers would have a beard. And we also, back in them days, the sky caps at Sky Harbor Airport were all brothers. And so we had, we all knew them because we lived in South Phoenix. And so when we come to the airport, they in white shirt and bow tie, they were like, uh-oh, they on a mission. So we would have them watch the cars. We would literally go out to the tarmac and get the minister off the plane and then take him to the car and take him to his hotel. Yeah, you know, I remember once you asked the question, was one of my most favorite moments was we was taking the minister back to the plane, and it was just the minister. And we asked the pilot, say, what's your name? And he was like, why y'all drilling me? He was like, because if anything happened to him, we looking for you. And so he kind of smiled, but at the same time, he saw how serious we were. One of my most favorite moments too was the minister, I like the way he interacted with his family, his wife, his children. I watched him and studied him. I remember one of the first talks I ever heard him say on a cassette tape, he was talking about male-female relationship. And you know, coming out the grave, I had never heard nothing like that. I didn't know that Muslims talked about male-female relationships. And he said, one of the things that stuck with me, he said, there's only two reasons a man approaches a woman. He said, he don't care what other excuses you give, but there's those two motives is the reason you approach a woman. One, you see her, you said, that's gonna be my wife. The other one is you see her and you wanna do, hit and run, you know, not, you're not serious, you playing, you know?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So, right. So when I came in, you know, so that changed my whole approach in the nation. And then too, MGT, you know, you don't approach an MGT like you did when you was up in the club.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, so when I met Sister Margurite, it was at a study group, and she was weighing out the study group leader. Now this brother he had 3 study groups. He ran the daytime study group, he ran a Thursday night study group, and a Friday study group. And she was weighing him out. I was like, wow, I gotta find a way to get to meet this sister. And at the sister's house we were at, she had these beautiful, they looked like they were black roses, but they were dark purple roses. She had roses in her front yard. So I stood there and she came out, Sister Margurite came out, and I must say that when I saw her, I was, you know, I was, one of the things Brother Jabril got on me because I had very low self-esteem and no confidence in myself at all. That's one of the reasons I never made it to the NBA. And I would play with some of those guys on the playground and wear them out, you know, but get in front of people and I couldn't perform at all. You know, I would just choke up. But Brother Jabril saw that and actually nurtured me out. He taught us about vanity, being egotistical, you know, I just wanted to be seen and heard, just to be seen and heard. But when I saw her, she was going to get in this bad Mercedes. I was like, I don't stand a chance. You know, I'm driving this old raggedy beat up car over here. You know, and this sister going to get in a brand new Mercedes. But when I saw her, I asked her, I said, it's just, I'd like to get your phone number. And she said, and for what reason? You want my phone? I said, well, sister, I would like to discuss some business with you. And left it at that. She gave me her number.
Okay. Go ahead, Brother Charles. Go ahead, Brother Charles. Brother Charles is ready, Sister Margurite. He had the answer for you.
He was plotting on me.
I was plotting. At the time, I must say too, I had 2 boys and 2 girls from a previous marriage, and I would bring them to the meeting, and she would see my children, and she would immediately start combing my girls' hair and doing things. And I was like, okay, I marked that down. Yeah, that's good. We stayed in the same apartment complex with there was a lot of other believers. I worked second shift, and so she would watch my oldest son. And when I got off, she would have cooked, and then she would go home, and she could cook, brother. I marked that down, and she was smart. Mark that down. And she was taught by Mother Tanetta. How do you as an FOI, how do you get rid of a sister who's been taught by Mother Tanetta? I just couldn't imagine how you do that. No matter how angry and stuff you get, you know, you work that out because of what Mother blessed. I remember one of the things she said that Mother told her, make your home your mosque. Make it so comfortable where, you know, because it's gonna come a day when you're gonna be shut in with each other. Can you survive and not hurt each other, kill each other, all that, argue, want to divorce, break up? You know, we didn't know COVID was coming down the line, you know, where we would actually be like that.
It prepared us.
Right, it prepared us for COVID. But that was one of the blessings I got from being with Mother. Another thing I would say is that Brother Jabril always taught us that when you talk, your brain is on display. So he says it's better to be thought as a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
That's right.
So we didn't talk with the minister and Mother. We gave them their space. We weren't always in their face trying to ask them questions and stuff. We gave them their space. And when the minister wanted to speak with us, he spoke with us individually, and he spoke with us as a group.
Powerful. Yes, yes, sir. Thank you very much for your transparency and honesty. Sister Naima says, oh, I love it. Sister Minister Aisha was saying that you can sing, and your son Drew Muhammad says that he is your backup singer, sister.
He can sing too.
Okay, great. Yes, ma'am. And Sister Margurite, I want to ask, what advice would you give to current mothers as well as future mothers?
There's a lot of advice to be. Well, you know, I came into a relationship where I didn't have children. And so it didn't bother me, you know, that he had children, because, you know, I had been told I would never have children. And I let him know that. And he was like, well, I ain't want no more anyway. So I'm like, cool. Oh, cool. Okay. So that was a fit. But I had to learn as a stepmother, you know, how to be a stepmother. And I remember going to Mother Tanetta and telling her, you know, oh, I don't know if I can do this, Mother Tanetta. And this, we call her Mother T, right. You know,
yes,
and, well, you know, and as I, you know, went on my rant and stuff, and she stopped and she said, well, Margurite, you know, the problem is we don't like to work. And I looked at her, I'm like, you know, I know better, you know, than to fix my mind crazy at Mother Tanetta, but I sure didn't know what she was saying. You know, I was like, I work, you know, whatever. But I, you know, I'm like, okay, yes, ma'am. You know, and that's a good thing about being raised in the South by Southern people. You know when to shut your mouth.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
You know?
Yes, ma'am.
So I shut my mouth, and it was later I got to understand what she was talking about. Because no matter how many children you have, if you are organized, you can do a lot with those children. You have to teach those children, train those children, and it, you know, raise them up in the way they should go.
That's right.
You know, and so this is what I had to do with them. Now, I have come to find out, being a stepmother and a mother, ain't none of them ever appreciative. You know, but I've had some stepchildren that are more appreciative, you know, and I have one or two sons that's more appreciative. But I ain't calling no names.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
The advice I would have for mothers, though, you have to stay in the class. You have to stay in the MGT class. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave brothers the advice to get all men and boys in the FOI.
Right.
And that is a level of protection for our people, to get these men and boys in the FOI. Because if you look at what they're doing, they know not to come after us, because they know something waiting on them coming after us, but they going after our people, because our people are unprotected and they open game.
That's right.
So we have to push our women and our girls to get into the MGT and the MGT, to learn what it is to be a woman. And you're not going to learn it anywhere else but in the MGT.
And I like to throw something in there too, brother.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Brother Charles.
As a husband and a father, I know we were both working here in Houston, and our sons were probably 1 and 3 years old, and we had a 7-year-old. But we would drop our young boys off to daycare, and they would start crying, and that broke my heart. I told her, she was working for Halliburton. She was an executive secretary, making real good money. And I told her, I said, I got this. You're not working anymore. You're going to stay home and take care of our children. I got this from now on.
Go ahead, Brother Charles.
And she said, but what are we going to do? I said, we're going to make it. I'm going to push myself. And and every time I got a job outside of, after that, brother, my career just kept going up. All praise is due to Allah. And I have I just had Allah bless me with the ability to see and focus. And one thing Brother Jabril told us, if you want to be good at something, get 3 good books on that subject, and you become an instant expert. So I would. And my wife would tell you, my boys would tell you, even after work, I would always be, in what I do, I would always be studying. And back in those days, the white man wasn't sending me to class. He would send the white guys to class, but I was working the graveyard shift. So they leave their books on their desk. I'm going to read. I got all night. So I read, and when projects would come up, I would tell them, hey, I can do this, but Charles, you didn't go to class. But let me show you how I know. Let me demonstrate this. And
go ahead.
That's how it is. So I demonstrated, hey, I know it better than they do. And but that's what it allowed me to put my wife in a position where she can take care of our family. And that, which is the base, is I remember the first, I must say this, when I was about 12 maybe, my older brother here in Houston, he was sent for us for the whole summer, and he had a book. He had several books on his bookshelf, but I pulled a book out and it said, Message to the Black Man in America. And I just opened the book up. And when I opened the book up, it opened up to the chapter that says, we must protect and elevate the Black woman.
That's right.
Oh, I was done. Man, I was done because I love my mother. I love my sisters,
Go ahead, Brother Charles.
So that's the part I say this to help her to be a good mother. My thing was is to bring the money and drop it off at her feet and take my little allowance and let her take care of business.
And he does.
Go ahead, Brother Charles. Brother Charles, you're putting some pressure on us. You're putting some pressure on us.
well, and that's one of the things that you have to work out between couples is who's going to handle the finance.
Right.
And we discovered very early in our marriage that he could not handle finance because we were both in school and we had $2. Johnny Taylor, them last $2.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
We had $2 to payday. And I gave him the $2. It was after a Wednesday meeting. I'll never forget it. He says, oh, I'm going to go in the store. So I gave him them last $2. And he went into the store and he came out. I'm thinking, okay, he'll come out with a sack of beans and some rice. And, he came out with a big old bag of potato chips. I'm like, do you know that's the last $2 we have till payday? Oh, I just went. Okay, I shut my mouth. Okay, I fumed. We made it to payday. All praise.
Go ahead, praise
but I realized at that point I could not leave the finances in his hands. If I needed a bag of beans, I need to go buy my own bag of beans.
That's beautiful, and I'm learning so much from you all, and you all remind me a lot of my parents. A lot of my parents, praise be to Allah. People showing you all love all around the world. Sister Cassandra is saying ASA, she's loving every minute. Brother Charles and Sister Margurite are a joy. Sister Kalila says mighty MGT, amen. T sister, all praise due to Allah. Sister Naima said go ahead. And thank you, Brother Charles, and thank you, Sister Margurite, for your transparency. I want to come back to you, Brother Charles. What type of music do you enjoy listening to?
Oh, that's interesting, brother, because I'm a DJ.
Okay, go ahead, Brother Charles. Okay.
Yeah. We do Chicago stepping.
Okay.
I must say I'm pretty good at it.
Yes, sir.
But
what's your name?
My DJ name is DJ Brumman.
Okay, DJ Brumman. Okay.
Well, actually, it was Brahman, and I have a dear friend of mine in Phoenix. He said, "Man, we ain't nobody gonna say Brumman. You DJ Brumman from the 5th floor."
Brumman from the 5th floor.
But the kind of music I love old school R&B, smooth jazz. And those are two of my favorite genres. And lately, I've really got into going back into Little Richard, all that the music that my father and my grandparents grew up on.
Yes, sir.
And so I even rock and roll. But that's not, I'll play it if somebody requested, that kind of stuff. But I will not play any country and western on my DJ box.
Hey, bro, man.
Willie Nelson.
Right. I remember once I was DJing a party and a sister came up to me and asked, "Can you play some Willie Nelson?" The dance floor is packed. I said, "Sister, turn around and look at the dance floor." And she said, "I want to hear some Willie Nelson." I said, "Well, then you better go to your car, put Willie Nelson on. You can hear all the Willie Nelson you want." And I have a, you can't see, but when I give you that look and that eyebrow go up, I'm about to get you. So you need to get on the way because I'm about to let you have it. And I'm one of the back in those days. I ain't like people coming up. If you have a DJ, everybody think they're a better DJ than you.
That's right.
That's why they coming up to the booth telling you what to play. They don't, as long as if they don't hear their song, you a bad DJ.
Yes, sir.
Even though the dance floor is full, you're a bad DJ. But I like, come to find out that as DJing, it was kind of like being a minister, because I used to be a minister at Mosque number 32. I followed Brother Jabril.
Okay.
And that was one of the most difficult thing that ever happened for me. Because the way it happened, I was on post, check post, and the minister was there, and he said, "Where's Brother Charles?" And I come out, like, somebody done told on me, I'm finna get in trouble. And the minister called me up, and I came up. He said, "Brother Charles, I've heard a lot of good things about you, and I want to ask you to represent me here in this city." And I was floored. I had never I was nothing but FOI, and I was happy being an FOI. Whatever I needed to do, I want no post. I will say this, that back, we used to run to the meeting to get there first because Brother Jabril said, "Whoever get there first, you in charge, you set up security and the chairs and everything." So we were arguing. "I got here first." "No, I got here first." So Brother Jabril said, "Let me tell y'all something. Do you know who's gonna be the first ones that Master Rob Muhammad gonna judge?" We was like, "No, sir." He said, "The laborers." When he told us that, we were like, "Okay, I don't want to be no laborer."
You got it.
Right, you got it. You can have it. And then when we got into the curriculum with Mother, where we were rotating, we would take turns being in charge. Each one of us had a chance to be in charge. They didn't want that responsibility. That's a lot. I see why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had the hardest job, because dealing with Negroes would drive you crazy.
Facts.
So yeah, that's my thing. That's how I escaped. My wife's a master quilter, so I would always be in her business. Why you got to go out of town to quilt? And who you meeting there? Some man or something? And she would say, "Only if he's a quilter." And she told me one day, "You know what? You need to get out of my business and get you a hobby, something to keep you outside of work, something to keep you in it. And that's how I got into music. I went back, I was a DJ in high school, and that's how I got back into it. And now, and I'm still DJing now. You know, I love it. I do occasional parties, but that's my outlet. I'll go in my music room, shut the door, let my kids, my wife know when I got the door shut, don't bother me. You know, and that's my escape.
Go ahead, Brother Charles. And we coming to Sis Margurite, but I just want to let you all know people are showing you love all around the world. Sister Mayoshi says she loves them. Sister Sherry Pearl says Brother Charles is the best DJ. And Sister Sandra says, say that again and teach hard. Okay, Brother Charles, I wanted to ask you. I do like country music, you know, as well as rock. I like all, not Willie Nelson, but I throw some Chris Stapleton or some Dolly Parton, Jolene. But when it comes to I'm from Chicago, which is an hour outside of Chicago, and we love stepping. So what type of music do you put on to try to encourage people to step who are outside of Chicago? Because it's living in Atlanta, people don't step like that. So what type of music do you do to introduce people to Chicago?
Well, yeah, we were blessed. All of our, when we started stepping, we first were introduced, you know, when people think they stepping, they think R. Kelly is stepper. We kept telling R. Kelly can't step, you know? He just scooting around the floor. But we brought all of our instructors from Chicago to Phoenix. We And so, you know, Andre Blackwell, Lady Margaret, Brian, Stephen B from LA, all of them moved from Chicago to other cities. LC, Sam Chapman. So, you know, Sam Chapman was a legendary DJ back then. But when in 2004, Los Angeles had a stepping event called MLK stepping event. It became one of the largest stepping events back then.
Stepping the King's Dream.
Stepping the King's Dream. And I got a chance to meet Mellow Chris, DJ Calvin, and others. So I got the chance to see how smooth these brothers were. You know, they were so smooth, they wasn't sweating. And
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It was a grown man's dance. And that's what I liked. It was clean, it was dressed. You know, because I used to dress like Oracle, you know, all funny, you didn't have pants up to my belly button and all that. You couldn't dance, had no rhythm. But if the kind of music I play is like, especially when I see the step through, I play classic. I go classic. And then nowadays they said, you know, my music is too slow. But when you really stepping, you ain't trying to do aerobics out on the dance floor. You ain't got time to do all that fast. Most of the people that want that fast music, they can't step, you know, or if they stepping, they off beat. And one of the first things I learned as a stepper, Brian Patterson taught us, we thought we was finna get into some lessons, and he taught us how to find the beat. We didn't know there was a such thing as a beat in stepping.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He taught the women the direction they supposed to go. And then he taught the men how you're supposed to lead and direct her and put her into these moves without breaking her wrist, breaking her arm, you know, yanking off her bracelets, you know, and stuff like that, you know. So that is how I got into. So Mellow Chris, he always told me, you know, be smooth, and that's what I do. I'm smooth with mine. Every now and then, I'll kick it up every now and then, but I'll bring it right back down. And that's one of the things as a DJ, you want to keep the people going up and down, up and down. You don't want to be one BPM. So that's what I learned as a DJ, how to read my BPMs. And so I'm usually somewhere between 80 and 88 BPMs. And sometimes I'll drop it a little bit more. And then every now and then I'll go up a little higher, because you also got to accommodate people that do ballroom, you know, the hand dance or two-step. Whatever. Yes, sir. Try to accommodate everybody. You know, and that's what I learned. I learned to read my audience and accommodate them as well, not just the steppers, but everyone else.
Go ahead, Brother Charles. All right, and for everyone watching, I mean, of course, people know, they know Josh. They call me a big stepper, but when it comes to dancing as well, I can step. So the next event that anybody's throwing and they want to book Brother Charles or DJ Brumman, how do we reach out to you, Brother Charles? Do you have like an email? You like Instagram?
Yes, sir, I do.
He'll give it to her.
You want us to say it now, or?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
It's RAYCHASMC1956 @
Perfect. Yes. Let's make sure we book. Let's make sure we book DJ Bro, man, because that's the type of music I like to dance to. You know, so for sure. All right.
Right.
And for you, Sister Marguerite, what is your favorite movie, ma'am?
Right now it's World War Z.
Okay. So you going Tom Cruise? You going Tom Cruise?
That's what now? That's what's his name, Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt. Okay.
Other than that, The Godfather.
The guy. Oh, okay.
All The Godfather.
I wasn't expecting that. Okay, go Godfather.
Well, see, and I love those movies because it's a lot of history in that. My father was a historian. He wasn't trained, but my father was a voracious reader, and anything about history. I had 6 brothers, but I'm the only one who would sit there and listen to him. Who had the time or the inclination to listen to his stories about history, how things were, what happened, the Battle of the Bulge, dropping of the bombs on Hiroshima, and
yes, ma'am.
all these events. So, and we had this go back and forth about the mob. He had a lot of books about the mafia and stuff, and we had a couple of disagreements about it, and because I didn't see it, didn't make sense to me. So all praises due to Allah. The last year of his life, when I was in Memphis, I got to be down there with him.
Right.
And so I got to talk to him about all these things that we had talked about over the years. And Brother Jabril is so much like my father. I mean, he had a memory. His memory was forever. And he just had a grasp of facts that's beyond anything. And so I think that's why I really took to Brother Jabril so, because he was some people, he was abrupt, and he was
right.
That kind of person that was hard, especially for sisters. They get their feelings hurt and all this stuff. But I mean, I grew up with 7 male household. I didn't know how to get my feelings hurt because boys, they're just boys.
Yes, ma'am.
Somebody hurt your feelings, you just deal with it and go on about your business. So he reminded me so much of my father and his I had a thirst for knowledge, and so he told me about the hanging place in my hometown. And he, where
that is.
That's Emmett Till was murdered in a town that's like 8 miles from the town I grew up in. So I asked him about that event because it was like Emmett Till was murdered 2 weeks after my birth. So I was born August 19th. Emmett Till was taken on the 31st of August. And so all of that was going around at the time. And so I wanted to find out from my dad, what was his perspective? What was his view about the whole thing? So he gave me he just gave me a lot of information that I didn't have. And plus I was doing the genealogy, which I learned to do from Brother Jabril's mother. Brother Jabril's mother, Sister Ruby, lived in Phoenix. She came to Phoenix after so many years, and we became really close. I mean, love Sister Ruby. Short sister, but I can see where Brother Jabril got his brain power from, because she was articulate. She had a knowledge of Greek mythology. And if you know anything about the mess that's Greek mythology, she can tell you all about that. She go all what those stories meant, and and the significance about it. And she also belonged to a really big Black genealogy club there in Phoenix that still exists.
Okay.
They meet at the segregated school, George Washington Carver.
Powerful. Yes, ma'am. And people are showing you both love all across the country, saying they bear witness. They It's been an honor for them to know you in real life. Well, I look forward to meeting you both in person, inshallah, soon. And we've been greatly fed today, and I can't wait to put this on YouTube. Shout out to all our YouTube family who looks forward to watching this. Sister Auntie, we them boys, Brother Kente, Brother Musa, everyone who continues to show love on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, everywhere. Yes, sir. And once again, on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of People's Podcast, we thank Allah for you taking time out of your busy schedule to come have a great conversation with us today. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off of the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum, family.
Alaikum.
Thank you all for watching.
Thank you.